Okay, hello, this is day 2, so it's the 5th of April 2023, and we're doing our second draft-ish of our Rattle Ekphrastic challenge for the month. So, last time, which was no time for you, I assume, but it was a bit of time for me, we had this image from Lou's story, and I wrote some draft notes and then a first draft. So let's have a look at this first-ish draft and see what we can improve and see if a day has gone by for it. I was thinking of David Hockney, the painter, some of his other paintings as well, in terms of that style. There's that a slight sort of modern impressionist. I'm not massively knowledgeable about art, but there's sort of my ideas around it. So I'm trying to think of how I can sort of put that into the poem. So what I'll probably do is, at this stage, is just sort of reread what I've got so far and then add, adapt, redraft and so on. So let's have a look. I am the flaneur. I wandered over hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew in gusts of blue. The houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs. Churches spying at the world, a break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. I slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks that take me away. The smoke from burning trees and corpses laying down to rest. I see the yellow sunset behind the spewing factories. Satanic mills taking over the meadows. Transparent angels floating overhead, sigh at the loss. Day turns to night, grass to points of stars. I cover my eyes so I can go back home. I cover my eyes so I can see home again, so I can see my home again. I wandered over hills and saw the sights, and saw sights, and saw the sights. Colon, maybe, and then make that a list for now anyway. So sometimes punctuation can just sort of help me organise the ideas more than anything. Fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. Let's have that as a sentence, because that's the sort of list of concrete ideas. Is there a better verb than wandered? It's quite poetic, isn't it? Even if maybe even cliched. I wandered over hills and saw the sights. The wind that blew in gusts of blue. The houses torn from red to brown. Fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs. The field of poppies, beaches filled with chairs. That sonnet plays nicely, I suppose. Churches spying at the world. Let's have an enjambment there. A seam parted, a zip unzipped. I slip between the gaps. That's better enjambment, I suppose, for now. I wandered over hills and saw the sights. Don't like it when a word does that. No spacing. I wandered over hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew in gusts of blue. The houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. A break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. I slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to take me away. Bit of personification of the train, I suppose. The smoke from burning trees. I want to take out corpses because I feel like it's a bit macabre. The smoke from burning... I mean, I suppose burning trees is a bit of an odd image as well. I think chimneys the smoke from chimneys, chimneys and bonfires, laying down to rest a yellow sunset. Behind the spewing factories, the satanic mills, taking over the meadows. Transparent angels got to go. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of the day. Turning to night, blades of grass point to stars. It's lovely accents there. To stars. I cover my eyes so I can see home again. Take out my, I think. Okay, that's sort of like draft 2 there, I suppose. I think what I'll do is probably go all the way back and leave that first draft there. Let's see if Control Z will actually take me all the way back. Yeah, I think it did. Okay, so let's see how. So what I usually do is, so I've got a page for each sort of separate note or stage of it, I suppose. So there was yesterday's notes, then that sort of semi-first draft that I did, and now this is today's most recent version. Let's see if I can go over that again. I am the flaneur. I wandered over hills and saw the sights. The wind that blew in gusts of blue, the houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. A break, a scene parted, a zip unzipped, I slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to take me away. The smoke from chimneys and bonfires laying down to rest, a yellow sunset behind the spewing factories, the satanic mills taking over the meadows. I'm not happy with that verb, taking over. Usurping meadows. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of the day turning to night. The blades of grass. I want a full stop there because that makes it sort of more impactful. The next bit. The blades of grass point to stars. I cover my eyes so I can see home again. I quite like that as an ending. Do I want to make it third person? Call it the flaneur and they wandered? Yes. Yes, I do. They wandered over the hills. They slip. They cover. They cover their eyes. And see home again, and see home again. Okay. I think that makes it more objective. Not that it's dangerous writing it in first person, I just feel, I don't know, maybe a sense of the ekphrastic where you're observing something. I mean, you could put yourself in someone's role, obviously. But I quite like that as third person, as a traveller. The flaneur. They wandered over hills and saw the sights. The wind that blew in gusts of blue, the houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world, a break scene parted, a zip unzip. They slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to take them away. No, maybe a dash instead. The smoke from chimneys and bonfires laying down to rest, a yellow sunset. Tucking in, better image, I think. No, I like tucking. See, this is a process of editing, so I've thought of a different line, and I've sort of dismissed it as soon as I've thought about it, but I'm going to include it because I like having it in the draft. Even if just so there's a record of it, maybe I'll come back to it, maybe it will appeal to me later on. The smoke from chimneys and bonfires laying down to rest, a yellow sunset. Behind the spewing factories, the satanic mills, usurping the meadows. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of the day turning to night. Blades of grass point to stars. They cover their eyes and see home again. That, to me, is probably the best line. Okay, let's count that as a draft, I suppose. I mean, what point are they slightly different drafts or not? Because I've already got 4 pages worth after 2 days. But let's have a look at this draft and how that might change then, I suppose. The flaneur. They wandered over hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew in gusts of blue, the houses torn from red to brown. The fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. A break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. They slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to be taken, to be taken away, as if they're being controlled by the landscape. That's interesting. The smoke from chimneys and bonfires. Here I can take out that bit because I've got a record of it before. The smoke from chimneys and bonfires. Do I need the and? Chimneys, bonfires. Pyres. Laying down to rest, a yellowing. I like the grund there because that weakens that image even more, doesn't it? Behind the spewing factories, the satanic mills, usurping the meadows. Wisps float overhead. Usurping is too strong, I think. Satanic mills. Clawing at the meadows. I was thinking of masticating, but that might be a bit too much, I think. Mooring. Is that a word? To moor. Moor's a word, isn't it? Oh, maybe it's not a verb, it's just the noun. Okay, mooring. Masticating, but again, I'm not going to be using that. Salivating. I don't like either of those. It's satanic. I mean, satanic is such a hyperbolic image anyway. Maybe I don't need a verb. I think clawing is probably the best thing. Sometimes I might strike through stuff to make it a bit more clear to me what my thought processes are. Sort of drafting, showing the process of elimination. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of the day turning to night. The blades of grass point to stars. They cover their eyes and see home again. Yeah, it's getting there. I think I want to also, for this one, let's start a new version. You may notice I'm just cutting out the image, so I mean I don't need it more than once every time, just with the latest version. That's enough, isn't it? The flaneur. They wandered over hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew in gusts of blue. The houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. A break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. They slipped between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to be taken away. The smoke from chimneys, bonfires, pyres. There's a nice flow to that tricolor. Laying down to rest, a yellowing sunset. Behind the spewing factories, those... It's more of a clear reference to Blake, I suppose. Satanic mills, clawing at the meadows. Wisps float overhead. Sigh at the loss of day, of the day turning to night. Of day turning to night. The blades of grass point to stars. They cover their eyes and see home again. Okay. Hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew, and gusts of blue, the houses torn. Let's use some purposeful enjambment. So you've got that saw at the end of the first line, so there's an anticipation of what they actually will see. So there's a bit of a anti-climax with the word sights. Maybe take that bit out. I mean, the alliteration is nice. And saw the sights. And saw the wind that blew in gusts of blue. Maybe change the senses, because you're going to hear the wind. But then there's that synesthesia of blowing blue. They wandered over hills and saw the sights. I like that alliteration. Is that going to be my downfall? I don't know. The wind that blew in gusts of blue. The houses torn from red to brown. The fields of poppies. Beaches filled with chairs. Churches spying filled with chairs. Churches spying at the world. Yeah, that's nice on John one there. Let's have a stanza break. I feel like having a sort of displaced stanza start as well. So there's the physical break, isn't it? A break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. They slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to be taken away. The smoke from chimneys, bonfires, pyres, laying down to rest, a yellowing sunset behind the spewing factories, those satanic mills clawing at the meadows. Wisps float. I think another stanza break there. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of day turning to night. Blades of grass point to stars, they cover their eyes and see home again. Okay, I like the visuals of that, and I think the stanza and displaced first lines sort of work well with the separate parts of the image as well. The flaneur. They wandered over hills and saw the sights, the wind that blew in gusts of blue, the houses torn from red to brown, the fields of poppies. Fields of poppies is a bit dull. Beaches filled with chairs. The fields crowded with poppies. Yes, I like crowded, because then that's personified, and then you've got sort of war references of poppies, First World War, the fields of the fields crowded with poppies, fields crowded with the fields crowded with poppies, beaches filled with chairs, churches spying at the world. A break, a seam parted, a zip unzipped. They slip between the gaps, 1 foot in the field, 1 on the train tracks, ready to be taken away. The smoke from chimneys, bonfires, pies, laying down to rest, a yellowing sunset behind the spewing factories. Something about the sun there. To rest, a yellowing sunset, hidden behind spewing factories, satanic mills, clawing at the meadows. Wisps float overhead, sigh at the loss of day turning to night. The blades of grass point to stars. They cover their eyes and see home again. Right, I'm kind of happy with that as like a distinct second draft. So if we go, for example, if we go to that first full-ish kind of draft, what I can do is split it here. So there's that first draft made from the notes from before, and there's the newer version, or the latest version anyway. I mean, I think there's the core of the idea is there, and I've modified that first draft so it's more of a poem, I suppose, as opposed to a list of things or just brainstorming. And there seems to be more of a purpose to it. Now, what I want to try to avoid, though, is it still being just a list of images, because then it's just a description of the image. So I've just got to be careful with that. But I think I'm quite happy with that as a second draft of this in the second day, and we'll take it from there. What I've found also is that between the drafts, between the videos, the image sort of flicks into your memory, and you start to think about it in other ways. So I'll see if I can include some more of those in the videos. But for now, I think that'll do. I'll see you next time.